it is invisible just like oxygen, but it becomes essential in your day-to-day life. Of course, I think the data privacy plays a very critical role, especially in a most regulated environment.
Hello, friends. Today I am joined by Gopi. He is a data, AI governance, and privacy strategist with more than 15 years of experience. He has worked in fintech, government, logistics, and financial services. He holds a CDMP Master certification in data management. Gopi has led many data transformation projects, and his passion is building trust, compliance, and growth through a strong data governance. Today, we are going to talk on the topic of AI governance for trust, fairness, and business value. Gopi, welcome to my show. How are you?
Hello, Dr. Dilshad. It's such a pleasure to be on your show. And thanks for the opportunity. Looking forward for a candid and impactful conversation.
Okay. To start the podcast, can you please tell me something about you and your journey? How did you reach up to this stage? A little bit
Sure,
about your background.
sure. So yes, doctor. So I just started as soon as I finished my like the graduation, I joined a startup who are purely into data management and in terms of like consulting and implementation. And this was a journey where I got some basic foundation of like why data for banks, especially for the banks, because that's where the whole journey started off. That's where the importance of data was given, from the customer data to the compliance, regulatory, and different aspects. I think I almost traveled to multiple countries, Middle East, Africa, and APAC. I
Mhm.
think irrespective of the places, I think the regions and everything, the importance of the data remained the same. And I think during my initial stage, it was always like, the data was more on BI, and it was always a technical conversations that we were having, creating reports and like whatnot. But I think as the complexity of the data or the tech stack got evolved over a period of time, I think that's where the governance part, I think it got into the limelight. And that's where I was like pulled into the whole data governance perspective of the data management, I would say. Because I think it has been more than like 2 decades where we have been talking about data, the reporting, dashboards, and even now the AI part. I think, but somewhere I think the complexity of the tech stack or the way how data is being managed and the ownership around it, being making it more compliant and making it deriving the clarity out of the chaos. I think these were all, I think, the most common problem every organizations have been facing for quite some time. And I
Mhm.
think me as a data governance or AI governance practitioner, I've been in this region for in UAE for almost like a decade now, like practicing, empowering people, the business through metadata-led data literacy programs and focusing on data quality, data privacy, and of course, creating the foundational layer for all the advanced analytics and AI use cases, I would say.
Okay.
I think this journey has been really wonderful, and it's been really aspiring. I mean, meeting lots of the industry leaders and the practitioners. Where I think it's a continuous journey. I think we are all in this journey together. Looking forward.
Okay. You talked about that you started your data science journey with a startup. What kind of a startup was that? Can you please tell me about that?
Yeah, sure,
And
sure.
where
So,
did that startup happen? It was in India or somewhere else?
so the startup is based out of UAE. So
You
we were
okay?
a data management, both implementation and consulting firm. So just like the big fours, but we were focused only on the banking. So it was started by a group of bankers, and we were focusing only the banks in Middle East, Africa, and APAC. I think the main reason or the criticality of the data warehousing revolves around the domain experience. So it is very easy to say that, like, as a technical person, I can come, I know SQL, like start working on a reporting or anything. But the domain knowledge is something that makes a difference in place. That's what the metadata is all about, right? I mean, you know exactly what you're talking about, what kind of regulatory reporting, or even a simple definitions. When it comes from the domain expertise, there is a difference. So we were able to implement and showcase or automate regulatory reporting to the top management reporting uh, compared to any other like a general implementation, I would say.
Okay. Well, let us come to the fundamental. Actually, there is a lot of buzzwords about this data. Everyone was talking about this data. In simple words, why this data is so important for our daily life or any kind of businesses? Can you please put some light on this? Why this data is so important?
I think it has almost become like a way of life. It's not just because I'm a data practitioner, I'm telling this because I think anything that we do, from like a mobile to a kind of a daily morning drive to whatnot, like I think it's almost become like it's an invisible, it is invisible just like oxygen, but it becomes essential in your day-to-day life. From let's say like, from morning, the moment I get up, I want to see whether I have my, like how was my sleep quality to the day, like how I'm starting my day, to see from the business interactions. It doesn't matter like personal or the business. I think the data has become like a way of life, I would say. I think
Mm.
it is more imperative from the work perspective, because I think the whole organization depends on the data that is being fed into the decision making, the smarter decisions, I would say, where they're calling it as a raw data to insightful to the predictive, whatnot. So I think data acts as your fundamental driving force for all your decision making to the kind of the reality, I would say.
Okay.
I think so. It's more important in our day to day life, both personally and from a business standpoint.
Okay, yes. But actually, with the rise of this data usage in every industry, academics, and wherever we are seeing it, and many people are actually worrying about the privacy. How can
Mhm.
companies make sure our personal data is safe and it is being used safely? Is there any check on this?
Yeah. So typically under I mean, data management as a whole, I think there are 11 pillars. And even though data governance is the driving force, I think the data privacy plays a very critical role, especially in a most regulated environment, I would say. Because me coming from the banking and fintechs, I think the customer data, again, revolving around the personal or sensitive, I think that it all starts with data classification, where you kind of understand what is your PI data or PCI DSS based on the credit card data, or the PHI, the health data. So it doesn't matter which domain you are. I think there are always you classify the data based on the sensitivity and confidentiality. I think it is not just about protecting the personal data perspective, but it is more than that. It's about creating the trust, which talks about an organization's reputation. So that's where I think both technically and as a functionally, I think we have introduced multiple layers for data protection. We have a data privacy officers in place. And I think given the background of the whole personal data lying across your tech stack, I think the access control plays a very important role. It is about like, the data that is being shared across, or the team who is having access to the sensitive data. I think it is all very important as a data governance professional, where you keep a tab of the personal data and also ensure it is being protected and encrypted in the right ways.
Okay.
And I would also say, like, there are times multiple models are created based on this personal data. I think we as a professional, we need to see how we can protect it. I mean, are we sharing it just because there's a business need, or are we trying to, like, create a model that is going to impact a business? I mean, it totally depends on the type of data that is being fed into the model, and we have to ensure that it is being protected and the model is being created.
Okay. Thank you. There's a lot of buzzwords nowadays that there's a term coming AI governance.
Yeah.
What does this AI governance really mean? And can you explain it in an easy way, this AI governance term?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I think we all see A has been there. I mean, it's not something like, which came in only in the last couple of years. It's been there for the last 3 decades in the market, in the industry, I would say. It is
Hmm.
just that today we have the technical capabilities to run such powerful or a strong AI models in place. But the fundamentals, as I told you, the fundamental remains same. So today I'm talking about data quality, data privacy, and metadata. So in AI language, this is what we're typically talking about: the trust, ethics, and explainability. So today, if I'm working on any kind of like an AI model, so I need to know whether am I being responsible for the model that I've been created. So is this
Hmm.
sustainable? Is it like the data model, that the type of data that is being fed into it, is it having a complete data set, like being inclusive or trustworthy. Ensuring, when I say that trustworthy, it again revolves around your data quality aspects of it, so that there is no bias outputs, or there is a fairness in the results. So I think all these ethical guardrails, I would say, which came from the EU AI Act. I think these are the guardrails that, as a professional, which we want to embark on AI models. I think somewhere this is what the AI governance actually started becoming really important, which is very focused on the AI models and the use cases, or the LLM creations to anything. So it is typically a rule book for AI. We have to ensure that, because right, it's human who is creating this model, but there
Mhm.
are times whereas like machine is going to take over based on the logic that is being fed into. But we have to ensure, we as professionals, like the AI governance, that it is not just a technical POC or a technical milestone, but whereas it is an opportunity to make it more sustainable, responsible, and ethical in the entire AI journey.
Mhm. Good. Thank you for the information. And how can these good data practices build trust between companies and people? Do you have some idea on this? Good data practices uh, to
Mhm.
build trust between companies and people, because data, we know that we are actually using data like anything. It is coming here and going somewhere else. But
Mhm.
how to build trust between like companies and people? It is the responsibility of companies or the people itself.
Okay. So typically, like as I told you earlier, I'm a very big advocate of the data literacy program. I think
Oh.
even though we have a centralized data team within every organization, I think data as a whole, it is everyone's responsibility, every employee's responsibility within an organization. So, because if you see the entirety of the data life cycle, from the data it's being collected to processed, transformed, stored, and being consumed for your reporting or any kind of like submissions. So, this is a complete data life cycle, right? So, we need to see how, as an individual, during the entire life cycle, how every individual is doing a better service, I would say, to
Mm.
create the trust inside. For example, a customer onboarding is one of the use case which typically happens in any organizations. So the moment you onboard a customer use case, let's assume there are like top 10 critical data elements, like from the name to the contact details to demographic details. So do we really understand all this information? Are we like verifying with a kind of a social ID, or is it being captured in the right way, or is it just like just for the sake of sending an input, are we doing it? So this is what a different type of data literacy program, which needs to be persona driven, I would say, from ground level to the leadership. I think there are multiple personas in the organization. I think to bring in the good data practices in place, I think these persona based data literacy program plays a very, very, very important role, I would say.
Okay, okay. So do you have some examples or real life examples where this managing data properly is helping a business grow? Do you have
Yeah.
seen here? Like,
Yeah, sure. So typically, since I come from the banking background and the
mhm,
fintech aspect
mhm,
of it, for us, the customer data is a very, very critical information, I would say. So let's take a very simple, the contact details. It could be a phone number, physical address, email address. It could be anything, right? But see, if you don't have the contact details in the right place, how will we as an organization, we will be able to communicate any kind of like offers to the cross selling, even as an organization, any kind of like that update that needs to go in, or any kind of campaign that needs to go in, how do you make that impact?
mhm,
So for me, the contact details, it might look very simple, but there is a whole turnaround time, or the transformation that happens with this contact information. So tomorrow, if I'm launching a new product, I would like to see what is the conversion for my product. So if my customers don't even know there is this kind of a product that is being existing, it's a gap. So me as an organization, me as a team, we kind of keep feeding these kind of gaps to the business, stating like, guys, out of the entire universe, these are the data that is having a bad quality data, or like there's a gap which needs to be remediated. So if you see the entire data quality life cycle, there are like four different phases. You start with assessment, you kind of do the profiling, you understand where is the gap, then you implement the rules based on the business inputs, and then you have to give the data quality dashboard. But what next? The remediation is something which is very, very critical for any organization from after you identify there's a gap from the data quality perspective. So I think the sooner we clean up the customer data, the sooner the process can be enhanced. It could be from a loan approval to launch of a new product to any kind of communication that is being sent from banks to the customers. I think even your recommendation engine or any kind of nudge engines works based on a good quality data. Because if data is well managed, then I think you will see the maximum operational efficiency, or it should be any kind of conversion which can be enhanced and enriched.
Okay, thank you. If you think about AI literacy as teaching people how to work with AI responsibly, what are some simple, pragmatic ways organizations can embed in our day-to-day work or life? What do you think for teaching people how to work with AI responsibly?
Sure. So if you see, typically most of the organizations, when they talk about AI use case, they start with a very simple question like, are we embedding a right ethical guardrails around the AI models, or are we solving the right business problem? I think we should start empowering the business and the technical team. We as an AI governance, that's what we do. We act as a medium between both the technical and the business. So here we need to be very conscious about what kind of data is being fed into it. Because if you see most, I mean, that's what the statistic says. Over 80% of the AI POC never make it into the production. What is the reason? I mean, come on. I mean, we have been spending so much, given the tech stack in place and given the complete configuration in place. Why is that 80% of the AI POCs never make it into production? So are we talking about only the technical capabilities, or is it the lack of governance around data? Is it like the data is being biased, or is it not being responsibly used? So I think these are all the different questions we need to be answering. I think beyond all this, me coming from the banking background, I think it is a very regulated environment. We're also answerable to the compliance team or the regulators. So we need to see how how fair or how responsibly we are training the data so that there is no bias in the customer group or any kind of a fairness model in place. So it is not just about the technical win that we're trying to do using a use case. It is more than that. We are trying to manage a reputation of the company or giving the customer experience, and also ensuring that the compliance risk is being managed. So I think the basics of AI governance or the guardrails or any kind of the use case that we're talking about, I think we have to see how ethical, explainable, and how aligned we are with the real business use case, so that we know that we are working on a responsible AI. Even if it is a POC, there is a sense of responsibility that is being fed into it, so that when we are able to scale it up, we are aware of what are the guardrails that it looks like, and it can be easily scalable.
Mhm.
So typically, I would like to give you an example because I'm a father of 6-year-old boy. So typically, I feel him as my LLM, where anything that I train, there are times he gets hallucinated with a very simple. So there were times he used to think that animals they do talk, because by seeing the cartoons and animated movies, he used to think. But I had to give him that sense of clarity that animals cannot talk. I mean, it is just there is a difference between
It's
animated
just an
movie
hallucination
versus
or something else.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I think even see that's what I'm saying. So the LLM we need to treat them like a kid, because it's we as a professional we need to train them, because it we have the capability where LLM can think on its own, but that doesn't mean that it can start hallucinating and it can start giving or creating a fake records or fake type of information where there is no context to it, and there is no, because this is where your whole trust ethics and explainability comes into the picture.
Yeah, you are right, because therefore a lot of prompt engineering and context
True.
engineering is coming into the picture, so that we can give the right whatever right feedback or whatever to the LLMs. Because I think the ethical standard of any model depends upon how ethical we are actually. Whatever is whatever we are feeding them, they will apply in the same way.
So that's where I think somewhere we as a professionals we are trying to create that fairness in the model. I mean, we are, you can simulate these bias checks.
Mm.
like by giving the test data diversified, you can actually do this bias checks to ensure that, and you can keep the human in the loop in the throughout the life cycle, so that you know that the model is foolproof and there is no hallucination or there is no deviation that is happening in the entire life journey.
Yeah, and also the LLMs and everything. Actually, we have seen that daily new things are coming up as far as
Mm.
AI is concerned, like new LLMs and all. And we are in the at very nascent stage of this growth of artificial intelligence. Therefore,
True.
what do you think that we are actually the person who are using artificial intelligence nowadays? We are actually responsible for making this all these AI based LLMs journey more ethical. It's our responsibility, I think, more rather
Mhm.
than the person who is creating it.
True, true.
Mhm.
So I think here the explainability is key to the trust. That's what I always believe in. That's why I said when you are sitting with the business, even not see these are the discussions that should be happening during a very very initial stage, not at the moment when where you start able to see the outputs. No, not at that point of time. I
Mm.
think somewhere we need to see there are multiple framework like ISO, IEC 42001 or NIST, the risk management framework. The entire framework helps you to understand how you can force or how you can put the logic into the plain language. So here we as a practitioners, we kind of like start understanding what type of data is being fed into the model and what is the quality of the data. Is there any kind of classification that needs to be taken care, or who owns these kinds of data in place? We need to also see from what is the source of this particular data. So that's why they say you need to know the bias checks, the data lineage that is coming from which source, and finally the human in the loop, which again I would like to say, because we are not trying to entirely remove the human in the, because we are trying to make humans of the team more efficient using the AI models. So that's what every use case that whatever we are trying to do or automate, we need to see how responsibly we're using the AI, not just for the sake of having AI tag under my use case. That shouldn't be the mindset, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. What do you mean by this human in the loop? That means human should be in the loop. What does it mean?
So, for example, when I told you about like doing a simulation on the bias checks, right?
Okay.
I mean, you can do the bias like based on the type of data that is being fed into to ensure that the model doesn't hallucinate. The human needs to be doing like how we have in the SDLC life cycle. You have testing as one of the critical. So here, the human in the loop will do those kinds of he'll be playing the devil's advocate, like where
Okay.
he'll be like playing around the model before releasing it to the production to
Mm.
ensure that it is being there is some kind of like bias check that's been happening and there's a privacy safeguards. For example, I would say there's a model which does your real-time credit decisioning based on the customer data that is being fed into. So, for
Okay.
example, if I go and ask my LLM, can you please give me a list of top earning customers from this particular? So there has to be some kind of guardrails in place, stating like, guys, I mean, the LLM needs to respond back to you. Thanks for asking this question, but these are all it's a very sensitive or confidential information. You're not allowed to share this. This is the kind of
Mm.
feedback that LLM should be giving it.
LLM
Instead,
should be given.
if it is getting exposed, because we know that there are like multiple use cases in the last number of months where there were like lots of minutes of meeting which was trained, which was captured by an AI model, and it got leaked. The sensitive information was leaked
Mm.
on the internet. So I think somewhere they were not ready or they didn't know before utilizing of an AI tool whether whether it was supposed to have a guardrail in place, or whether so these are all the different things even you might have extensive AI tools in place, but we need to see how safe or how trustable it is. Even at the time of POC stage, I think we as a professionals we need to ensure that it is going to be safe.
Mm. Okay, thank you. Thank you. This is very structured answer. And for someone new, actually, like a new businessman or individuals,
Mhm.
what's your advice to handle data responsibly in any business?
Okay, so as I told you, I mean, from the data literacy standpoint, we need to cater persona-based data literacy program across an organization.
Okay, this
When
one.
you
Mm.
speak the business language, it is easy for a business to come and ask you a data as is. Like, they might ask you, team, I need this data for crunching numbers, or I need to do my slice and dice, I need to do a cohort analysis. I mean, they will have typically, they're very use case centric. But we as a, as I told you, as a neutral team between the technical and the business,
Mm,
I think we need to make business understand that these logics needs to be owned by the business.
mm,
That's why I always talk about the business led metadata.
mm,
So today business is consuming it, business are producing, I mean, anything that they are doing, that's what data is being consumed and being produced. So somewhere business needs to own the data, but today in most of the organizations, if you see, it has become like an IT led thing. Like, okay, IT, I'm going to ask IT and IT is going to give me data. No, the logics or the quality of the data or the transformation logics or the critical data elements, or it could be anything that is around data, that needs to come from the business. That's where we as professionals, we need to keep nudging the business in the entire data life cycle. That it could be from a simple data use case to an AI use case, but somewhere we need to keep the business as the front end, I would say.
okay, thank you. Okay, and lastly, what would be your advice to our audience or whoever the people who are using artificial intelligence in their daily life? What's your
Mhm.
advice?
So I think today, just because we have the technical capabilities, or from an AI standpoint,
Mhm.
I think we started to build an AI models without a right data strategy in place. So it is like typically you're building a skyscraper without a basic foundational.
Basic
So
foundation.
I would say I would still insist to all the, the upcoming the practitioners or the business, or to all the listeners,
Mm,
get your foundational right. Because I think your data engineering, data governance, data privacy frameworks, they give you the foundational capabilities for you to enable all your advanced analytics or AI or any kind of automation that can be done. Because the moment you think, okay, it is just an AI demo, I just want to, I want to make my boss happy. No, if data is messy or data is like chaotic, your AI models will completely get messed up. I mean, it is a whole thing that it could collapse.
mm,
I think anchoring the AI to the data strategy with a complete data governance, quality, and compliance in place, I think that is a good starting point for all your innovation. I think that's where I think the real journey or the real change lies there, actually.
okay. Thank you. Thank you, Gopi, for sharing your insights on data governance, AI, and privacy. It's clear that a strong governance is not just about compliance, but also about building trust and driving growth. To our listeners, I hope you enjoyed this conversation and learned how data can be turned into a true strategic asset. If you liked this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave your feedback. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep exploring the world of AI and data. Thank you. Thank you, Gopi.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dilshad.